In the last section of our report, Sarah and I analyzed the state of alewife management in Maine. Alewives are one of two successfully managed fisheries at the municipal level. They are also a rare example of a fish whose populations are increasing, which highlights the success of restoration efforts and shows that we can increase the abundance of fisheries resources. I will first introduce to you what an alewife is, followed by the historical presence and human consumption of alewives. I will also discuss the current harvest and management structure of the fishery. Sarah will then present our 4 case studies and conclusions. This year's Andrew W. Mellon Fellow for Environmental Studies, Francis Moore LePay, was surprised to learn that an alewife is not just a tea stop in Boston. Instead, alewives are part of the herring family, which also includes shad and blueback herring. Adults are between 10 to 11 inches in length and weigh roughly half of a pound. Alewives are an anadromous fish, meaning that they spend most of their life at sea but return to freshwater to spawn. Alewives run or migrate upstream during the late spring and early summer. As one harvester noted, during the run, you can, quote, walk across water without getting your feet wet, end quote. This is how abundant alewife runs can be. Alewives are preyed upon by an assortment of predators, both aquatic and terrestrial, including eagles, osprey, seals, smallmouth bass, and Atlantic cod. As a significant prey base, alewives are important to the ecosystem. Notably, declines in recovery of larger predators may be linked to alewives. Some have noted that the recovery of inshore cod populations may be inhibited by a lack of alewives. Further, as juvenile salmon are out-migrating from Maine's rivers, adult alewives are traveling upstream to spawn. The intersection of the two migrations permits more juvenile salmon to reach the ocean by allowing alewives to act as a prey substitute for predators that would otherwise capture the juvenile salmon. Furthermore, juvenile alewives, which incorporate phosphorus into their bodies, remove the nutrient from the spawning habitat when they outmigrate in the fall. Archaeological excavations have identified alewife bones in fire pits of native villages that date back approximately 4,000 years. The historical landings of alewives in 1896 was over 3 million pounds. As illustrated, alewives historically migrated in all major and minor coastal watersheds in the state. Declines in these populations were caused by the construction of dams starting in colonial times. Also, heavy industrial pollution caused by lack of municipal waste facilities rendered many waters unsuitable or impassable to alewife migration. This image displays the extent to which alewives typically migrate inland, about 300 kilometers, but you can see that this range has decreased as a result of the reasons I just mentioned. Alewives are truly an acquired taste. As one interviewee describes, they are a two-beer fish. Due to their high fat content and ability to keep well when salted or smoked, alewives served as a prominent food source for human consumption in the 1800s. The fish keeps so well that some alewives were shipped to the Caribbean as food for slaves working on sugar plantations. Current human consumption of alewives is rare because many feel that the fish is both too bony and too salty. People who have maintained the tradition continue to fillet and pickle the fish as a seasonal treat. Alewives are also sold as a specialty food. For example, alewife roe is considered a delicacy in some parts of the U.S. Since the 1980s, about 98% of the harvest has been sold to the spring lobster fishery as bait. As you can see here, there was a decline in the landings of river herring in 1980, which is partially attributed to overharvest. It is important to note that these landings include alewives, blueback herring, and shad. For example, landings from the St. George River in 1983 averaged over 500,000 pounds. 3 years later, this number had dropped to less than 100,000 pounds. As a result of this dramatic decrease in the 1980s, the fishery in some towns was closed from 1987 to 1989. Pollution abatement efforts helped the population's rebound in the early 1990s. Further, other restoration activities since 1999 have been instrumental in reestablishing alewife runs and harvest. Notably, all levels of government have worked together to form a well-managed alewife fishery. International involvement is specifically relevant to the St. Croix River, which separates the territory between the state of Maine and the province of New Brunswick. The International Joint Commission mediates relations between the United States and Canada under the 1909 Boundary Lines Treaty, which dictates the regulation of the shared waters. In regards to federal-level management, the Anadromous Fish Conservation Act was the first national mandate associated with the conservation of alewives. In regards to state-level oversight, the Department of Marine Resources manages the alewife runs throughout the state. The department is responsible for approving municipalities' alewife harvesting plans each year. Further, the state mandates a 72-hour no fishing period during season. Also, to maintain a healthy run, DMR requires that at least 4 age classes of alewives be present in the river. While DMR has approved 40 municipality harvest plans, only 21 townships acted on their rights in 2013. Now, Sarah will discuss municipal management, specifically for our 4 case studies.
This map shows our 4 case studies as well as the impoundments and rivers in the area. Our 4 case studies are Benton, Damariscotta Mills, Ellsworth, and Warren, which are in the Down East region of Maine. Respectively, these towns are on the Sebasticook, Damariscotta, Union, and St. George rivers. We chose these 4 case studies to show a variety of active alewife fisheries that can be considered successes and have different and individual strengths. The first case study is Benton, which is a population of around 2,500 and again is located on the Sebasticook River. Benton is one of the newest alewife fisheries in Maine. Rights were re-established in 2009 based on historical harvest records. Rick Lawrence, the current alewife warden, championed this effort in partnership with the Benton Falls Dam Company, Essex Hydro, and the Department of Marine Resources. Alewife harvesting takes place right off the dam, so a partnership with Essex Hydro allows for this to happen. The town also has an annual alewife festival that was started when rights were re-established and takes place in May around harvesting season. This festival brings the community of Benton and the surrounding area together over fish and the river. The festival has been highlighted in the Bangor Daily newspaper as well as other local news sources, so even on a statewide level, this brings awareness to the species and the habitat. The second case study is Damariscotta Mills, which is a village in between the towns of Noblesboro and Newcastle on the Damariscotta River. They have a combined population of 3,500 people. This harvesting site, which is off the Damariscotta Mills Dam, Lincoln Benton, represents one of the oldest sites for harvesting alewives in the state. As you can see in the picture on the bottom right, that is the weir they use to harvest fish. In more recent years, there has been considerable efforts from local citizens to improve their alewife habitat. These people have backgrounds as fish committee members as well as other diverse backgrounds, but came together to form the Damariscotta Fish Ladder Restoration, which has raised over $650,000 to improve the fish ladder to help pass alewives from the Damariscotta River over the dam and into their lake spawning grounds. They even partnered with a federal engineer to ensure maximum effectiveness and efficiency of the fish ladder for alewives. Like in Benton, Damariscotta Mills also has an annual harvest festival where they sell smoked alewives among other alewife-related goods. Ellsworth has the largest population of our case studies of almost 8,000 residents and is located on the Union River. Ellsworth has exercised rights to fish for alewives for at least the past few decades and leased their rights to one harvester. As you can see in this graph, Ellsworth is also one of the larger harvesting sites in Maine. Like many other harvesting towns, they also harvest near their dam, the Union River Dam. However, they have an interesting partnership with their hydroelectric company in terms of restoration efforts. Since the dam is almost 60 feet tall, it would be too costly to install a fish passage, so the company contracts annually with a restocker to transport alewives past the dam to their spawning grounds. The town is also the gateway to Acadia National Park. They get a lot of tourists in the summertime, so they have the potential to expand their sales to human consumption if marketed to tourists, although there are no operations like this today. The final case study is Warren, which has a population of almost 5,000 and is located on the St. George River. They are the only municipality in the state of Maine to have a continuous harvest since they were able to acquire rights in 1802 from the Massachusetts government, as Maine was still a part of Massachusetts at the time. They lease these rights to two harvesters and annually receive extensions on their harvesting season, which shows that there is a good partnership between the state and the town, since the state grants them this every year. They also have a healthy alewife population, as illustrated in the pie chart, because they have 5 age classes of alewives present. This graph shows the revenue gained by towns from Benton, Ellsworth, and Warren. Damariscotta is not included because they are focused on other benefits gained from the alewife fishery, like restoration and ecotourism. All of the revenue in Damariscotta goes into a fund to help restore and maintain alewife runs. Ellsworth puts its revenue into a fund for municipal building maintenance, while other towns use the money in a general municipal fund. Though the revenue value fluctuates per year and per town, all towns receive monetary benefits from the fishery. In conclusion, dams, water pollution, and overharvesting have led to the overall decline of alewife populations in the past. However, now landings are increasing on the whole, which can be used as a proxy for growth in alewife populations. Alewives also don't have to be sold simply as lobster bait. There are other potential specialty markets like fertilizer, fish meal, and food for human consumption. In terms of habitat and ecosystem, community participation plays a central role in restoring and maintaining alewife runs, as demonstrated by our stakeholders.